Hello COP 1000 students. Today's topic is the selection or the decision statement. This is going to be the very first time I've been able to do something other than program from the top straight down. So everything up to this point has been top down. I can draw top down. What we're going to do now is we're going to learn the decision statement. And that decision statement is going to allow us to go from top down, and then we're going to hit what I call the fork in the road. The fork in the road. And our flow of our program is either going to go this way, or it's going to go this way, but it's never going to go both. So it's going to come down here, hit the fork, and the flow of the program is going one way or another. So if it comes on this side over here, whatever statements are here get executed, and whatever statements are over here do not get executed. But if we come down this path, these statements get executed and these don't. So that's where we run into the decision or the selection statement, or some people call it a condition. Now I want to talk about what I'm calling that condition or that fork in the road. A condition is something that equates to true or false. So it's got to be kind of like black or white, on or off. It is true or false. It can never be both, and it always must either be true or false. So a condition is something that equates to true or false. To build a condition, we're going to need something called relational operators. And the relational operators, there are 6 of them. And these 6 relational operators are used to build what I'm going to call a condition that equates to true or false. So let's list them. The first one we'll call less than. The second one we'll call greater than. The third one we'll call less than or equal to. The next, or the fourth, will be greater than or equal to. The fifth will be not equal. And finally, equals. Now notice these combined symbols, that's like one operator. So the less than and the equal sign go together. That's one thing. This is one thing. This is one thing. And now you see the double equals. That is pronounced equals. And a single, what you might call an equal symbol, that's the assignment operator that we've been talking about, or the gets operator. This is equals, this is the assignment or the gets operator. Okay, we're going to use one or these 6 operators to build a condition which equals true or false. Here's an example. 4 equals 5. Obviously that is false. Another example, 6 equals 6. That is true. 7 is greater than 8. That is false. 7 is less than or equal to 8. That is true. And I can continue. I'll do one more if I can only type. I will do 7 not equal to 8. That is true. So a condition typically has a value on the left side of one of the relational operators and a value on the right side, which equates to true or false. Now, when you write code, you're going to be using variables instead of constants, like num1 equal num2. Is that true or false? Typically, our conditions will go inside of parentheses as so. As so. So these are conditions. These equate to true or false. So now let's talk about the conditional or decision statement operator. So that is called the if statement. The if statement. And the if statement starts with the 2 letters, if, has a left parenthesis and a right parenthesis. Something goes in the middle, and that something is a condition. A condition. So let's take a look. If 7 equal 8 or 9, we know that that's either true or false. If that is true, let's take a look at this. If that is true, and our program started top down, so our program starts up here, works its way down if this was actual code, and it hits line 32. It evaluates this condition. If 7 equal 9, if that's true, it will execute line 33. If not, it'll go here. So let's look at this one more time. We come from the top down, we hit line 32. If it's true, we print this is true. Otherwise, we don't print this is true, and we do whatever's on this line. We do whatever's on this line. Now, it's possible that we could say print F, have a nice day. Have a nice day. So basically, what we can see here is we can have more than one statement be tied into the truth value of this condition. As a matter of fact, we can have multiple statements. Multiple statements. Notice the indentation. We understand that from our previous programs. But here's the deal. If we have more than one statement tied into this condition, we need the mustaches. And now, from here to here is conditional based on this condition. If this condition is true, I go inside of this block of code and execute every line. If this condition is not true, I completely skip this block of code and control goes down here. Remember, my complaint, always put a comment at the end of every mustache. Something simple like that. Okay, so typically we're not going to have 7 and 9. We're going to have something like int num1 and int num2. And maybe right here we ask the user to give us values for num1 and num2. So if the user is giving us values and we have the code here, we don't know what num1 or num2 equates to as this is running. So the user could have typed something that is equal. This would run. The user could have typed something that's not equal. We could say greater than and equal to. So based on the user input, which would be the lines of code that I didn't put here, but this comment, assuming they're there, this is either going to execute or it's not. All right, so now that's your basic if statement. And notice if I only have a single line of code, I don't need to block it. The one line will attach itself to this condition. Now the if statement has a second part, and that is the optional else part of the if statement. The else part. This is what I call the truth part, truth section, the true part. That would be everything inside of this set of mustaches of this block. And this down here, the else part, is I'm going to call the false. The false part. So if this condition is true, control goes in here to the true part, and the else part would be skipped. If this condition is false, I would skip the true part and do the false part. And as we've learned, this can be anything. Printf Dennis is here. I don't know, I don't care. So Dennis is here. And again, that would be the false part. The false part if this was code. So let's go from top down one more time and let's take a look at what's happening here. So we're going to start up here somewhere. We're going to execute statements. Num1 and num2 is going to get populated by the user, and we're going to test this condition. If num1 is greater than or equal to this num2, then we're going to do all of this. Once we hit the end of this mustache, we're going to skip over this part, and control's going here. So we're going to do these statements and then go here, or if this is false, we're going to skip these statements and go here, and then continue down here. Now, just like the true part, I have the else part, which can have mustaches. And those mustaches would create a block only for the else part. So if I have multiple statements down in the else part, they have to be grouped with mustaches, so that they're all executed when the condition is false. So this is called an if-else statement. The else part is optional. It's secondary to the if, so it's either if, else, or just plain old if. Regardless, these statements get executed, or these statements, and then control goes here. Okay, let's take a look at the if statement in general. Here would be a if statement, the most basic form. If some condition is true, do the true part, and then come out of the block. If the condition is not true, come out of the block. The second part is the if-else. If some condition is true, do all the statements of the true part, multiples. If that's not true, then come down in here and do all these statements in the false part. Now we have what's called an if-else if. So here I go. It's very similar to the if statement. If the condition is true, do the truth part. If it's not true, I test another if statement. Else if, that is like a single command. If this condition is true, do this part. Else, do this part. So I have two true parts and one false part. Notice the last else does not have a condition. This is kind of like otherwise. If this is true, then do this and come down here. If this is not true, test this. If this is true, come down here. If this is not true and this is not true, this will always get executed. So this, or this will get executed, never more than one. Never more than one. Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop here and create part 2 video. And on part 2 video, I'll show you actual code and we'll demonstrate it. So right now, this is the end of segment 1 or video 1 of a 2-part video series on the if, else, if conditional decision statements.